Ever catch yourself, kind of daydreaming about hitting the pause button on aging, like just skipping over that whole process?
It's a universal fascination, isn't it?
Totally. So today, we're diving deep into immortality theories, a topic that has captivated humanity for, well, probably forever.
Woven into our stories, our beliefs, even our scientific ambitions.
It's like this primal urge to transcend our limits, right? To see what's beyond the horizon of what we know. And we've got a fascinating mix of research theories, some seriously mind-bending speculation lined up for you today, all exploring that age-old question, can we cheat death?
And to navigate this exploration, we'll be using a tiered ranking system. We'll start with the scientifically plausible,
grounded in reality,
and then venture into the more, shall we say, imaginative realms of human thought.
Think of it as a spectrum, from rooted in science to defies logic but makes for a fascinating conversation. We're not here to endorse any specific theory.
No, not at all.
The goal is to unpack the sheer range of ideas humans have come up with in our quest for the eternal.
Because even the most outlandish concepts can reveal something about us, our desires, our fears, that constant quest to understand our place in it all.
Exactly. So let's start with something a little closer to home, something you might even call practical. Welcome to C tier, where science meets wishful thinking. First up, anti-aging therapies. Now, before you start picturing miracle creams and fountains of youth,
right,
we're talking interventions happening at the cellular level.
Imagine slowing down aging at its core. That's the promise of research into things like telomere extension.
Okay, telomere extension. Break that down for me.
Yeah. So, our DNA, our genetic blueprint, it has these protective caps called telomeres. Think of them like the plastic tips on shoelaces. They prevent things from fraying.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Good. So these telomeres, they protect our DNA, keep things from unraveling. But the catch is, every time a cell divides, those telomeres get a bit shorter.
Ah, so they wear down.
Exactly. And eventually they get so short that the cell can no longer function properly. That's a big part of aging and age-related diseases.
So frayed shoelaces equal wrinkles, achy joints, the whole 9 yards.
You got it, essentially. So some scientists believe if we can keep those telomeres from shortening, maybe even lengthen them, we could dramatically slow down aging.
Now that's a compelling reason to take care of your DNA. But telomeres are just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
There are also these mysterious things called senescent cells.
Ah, yes. Senescent cells. Picture them as zombie cells.
Zombie cells. Okay, now I'm really interested.
They're not technically dead, but they're not exactly thriving either. They linger in our bodies, releasing these harmful substances that damage surrounding cells.
So they're like the party guests who show up late, trash the place, and overstay their welcome.
That's one way to put it. And just like with those unwelcome guests, scientists are looking for ways to eliminate these senescent cells. The hope is that by clearing them out, we might be able to improve health span, delay age-related decline.
Sounds promising, but I'm guessing there's a reason this falls into C tier. Hopeful as it is, it's still a far cry from immortality, right?
Right. While we're making progress in understanding aging, we're a long way from hitting the pause button entirely. And even if we could, there's still disease, accidents, all those what-if scenarios.
You can't escape those, can you? Speaking of which, what about cryonics? Seems like a popular concept in sci-fi. Is it a genuine contender for immortality, or more of a freeze now, figured out later approach?
I'd say that's a pretty accurate assessment. Cryonics is more about buying time than achieving true immortality.
Okay, walk me through it. How's it supposed to work?
The basic idea is when someone is declared legally dead, their body is rapidly cooled and preserved at extremely low temperatures.
Like hitting the pause button on decomposition.
Exactly. The freezing is meant to prevent ice crystal formation, which can damage cells and tissues. The hope is that someday, technology will have advanced enough to not only revive the person, but also reverse whatever caused their death in the first place.
So wake up in the future, good as new. Maybe grab a flying car while you're at it.
That's the general idea. But here's the thing. We've never actually revived a cryogenically frozen human.
Right.
And even if we could, there are a lot of ethical and philosophical questions to consider.
Yeah, like would it really be the same you waking up? Or just a copy of your former self? Not to mention the potential societal impact of people suddenly not dying as expected.
You've hit on some crucial points. That's why cryonics is firmly in C tier. Scientifically plausible, in theory, but with massive hurdles to overcome, not to mention those ethical considerations. It's potentially disrupting the natural order of life and death.
It definitely makes you think. But for those who prefer their immortality with a side of high tech, Let's shift our focus to B tier, where things get a bit more Black Mirror.
Ah, yes, B tier, where we delve into mind uploading, transferring consciousness into a computer.
The digital afterlife. It's a mind-blowing concept.
Yeah.
How close are we to actually being able to do that?
Well, we've made some pretty interesting strides in brain-computer interfaces. For example, the work being done with helping paralyzed individuals control robotic limbs with their thoughts is remarkable.
I've seen those videos. It really highlights the potential of technology to interface with the human brain.
Absolutely. But the human brain is incredibly complex. We're talking billions of neurons, trillions of connections firing in ways we're still trying to decipher. Replicating that is a monumental challenge.
So, while my computer struggles to open 15 tabs at once, we're expecting it to one day house the entirety of a human consciousness.
It puts things into perspective, right? But there are ongoing projects, like the Blue Brain Project, attempting to digitally recreate the brain of a mammal piece by piece.
They're essentially building a digital brain. What does that even look like?
It's not a tiny glowing brain in a jar, if that's what you're imagining.
Darn.
It's more about simulating the neural networks and activity of a brain on a massive computer system.
Okay, so it's a simulation, not a perfect replica, at least not yet.
Yeah.
But let's say, hypothetically, we do manage to map and replicate the entire human brain. Would that digital copy truly be you, or would it just be an incredibly sophisticated copycat with your memories?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It gets at the very essence of consciousness. Is it simply a product of our brain chemistry, or is there something more, something that can't be replicated in silicon?
Whoa, now we're getting philosophical. It's a valid point, though. Even if we nail the technology, there are some heavy ethical and philosophical questions to consider, which is probably why mind uploading is hanging out in B tier for now. Plausible, but with some serious question marks.
Exactly. And it's not just the ethical dilemmas, although those are crucial to address. It's also about what we might lose in the process of digitization. What about the raw, unpredictable, beautifully messy elements of being human?
What's the point of living forever if you lose the essence of what makes you you along the way? And speaking of preserving our human essence, let's explore another B tier contender that takes a different approach. Genetic engineering for biological immortality. Instead of uploading our minds, what if we could simply upgrade our bodies to stand the test of time?
This is where we look to the animal kingdom for inspiration. Did you know there are creatures on Earth that exhibit what we might call biological immortality?
Wait, really? Like vampires? Asking for a friend who may or may not have a coffin-shaped bed frame.
Not quite as dramatic as vampires, but close. Take the naked mole rat, for example. These fascinating creatures can live for decades, which is incredible for their size. And they seem to be resistant to age-related diseases, even cancer.
Okay, now that's impressive. What's their secret? Are they soaking in some magical youth serum we don't know about?
It's all in their genes. Scientists are studying their DNA, trying to unlock the genetic secrets behind their longevity. And there are other intriguing examples, like the Turritopsis dorni jellyfish. This creature can actually revert to a younger state when stressed.
Wait, they basically hit the reset button on their own biology. That's incredible.
It does sound like science fiction, but it's a real biological phenomenon. The idea with genetic engineering for immortality is that if we can identify the genes responsible for these feats of longevity, we might be able to manipulate our own genes to achieve similar results.
So it's like searching for the cheat codes to immortality. Sign me up for the ageless jellyfish DLC.
If only it were that simple. It's not quite a software update, unfortunately. There are significant ethical and practical challenges to consider. For one, tinkering with the human genome is complex and delicate. We're still unraveling the intricacies of our own genetic code.
Yeah, one wrong tweak and you could end up with, like, gills.
Yeah.
Or something equally unexpected.
Exactly. It's a field that demands extreme caution. And even if we could safely engineer ourselves for longer lifespans, should we? What would it mean for society, for the planet, if people stop dying of natural causes?
Yeah, overpopulation alone is a major factor to consider. It seems like we need some serious ethical guidelines, some global conversations before we start tinkering with the fundamental building blocks of life.
Absolutely. And that's another reason why genetic engineering for immortality, as promising as it is, remains in B tier. The science is intriguing, but the potential ramifications are huge and require careful consideration.
It's a good reminder that extending lifespan isn't just about scientific advancement. It's about grappling with the broader implications for humanity and the world around us.
Which, speaking of ripple effects, let's dive into a theory that takes those ripples to a whole other level. Welcome to A tier, where the what-ifs get even more mind-boggling. We're starting with regenerative medicine and cloning for body replacements. This is where we step into some advanced body hacking. Imagine a future where failing organs are a thing of the past. Instead of fearing organ failure, you could simply replace them with new ones grown from your own cells.
It's like that scene in Spider-Man where he regenerates his arm. So are we talking stem cells here?
You got it. Stem cell research is incredibly promising in this arena. We're already using stem cells to treat diseases, regenerate damaged tissues.
Right. I read about a woman who used stem cell therapy to regrow the cartilage in her knee. Now she's back to running marathons.
It's remarkable, and the theory goes, if we can fully harness this technology, we could potentially regenerate any part of the body, essentially circumventing the aging process.
It's like swapping out old parts for new ones, keeping the biological machine running smoothly.
In a way, yes, and it gets even wilder when you add cloning to the mix. Theoretically, you could have a whole new body waiting in the wings, ready to transfer your consciousness into when your current one wears out.
Okay, now my brain is doing backflips. How would you even go about transferring consciousness from one body to another? Is it like copying data from one hard drive to another?
That's the question, isn't it? And honestly, we don't have a definitive answer.
Because, of course, that's assuming consciousness is even transferable in the first place, right? What if it's more than just data, more than the sum of our neural connections?
You're hitting on a crucial point. It raises questions about the very nature of the self. If you were to transfer your consciousness into a new body, would it still be you on the other side? Or would you be creating a new being entirely?
It's like that philosophical paradox of the ship of Theseus. If you replace every part of a ship, is it still the same ship? Only in this case, it's not a ship, it's us.
Exactly. It's a question that's puzzled philosophers for ages. And it's one we might have to confront head-on if this technology ever becomes a reality.
That's a whole other deep dive waiting to happen. But it highlights why this theory, while grounded in some genuinely exciting scientific advancements, firmly sits in A tier. Highly speculative, not entirely outside the realm of possibility, and brimming with philosophical implications.
Precisely. We're talking about a potential future where we've cracked some major biological and technological barriers. And it makes you wonder, what does it even mean to be human when you can simply swap out your physical form like a set of clothes?
It really challenges our understanding of identity, mortality, the very essence of what makes us human. But while we're pondering the mind-bending implications of body swapping, let's shift our focus to another A-tier theory that's sure to make your head spin: quantum immortality. This one always sends my brain for a loop, so buckle up.
Fasten your seatbelts, because things are about to get really, really weird.
Hit me with it. What is quantum immortality and what makes it so mind-boggling?
Okay, so imagine this. Every time you make a decision, even the tiniest one, the universe splits in two. In one universe, you picked A, and in the other, you went with B.
So like right now, in some parallel universe, I'm not sipping on this delicious coffee, but instead I'm enjoying a nice cup of tea.
Exactly. And the splitting continues with every single choice, creating an infinite number of parallel universes, each a unique branch of possibilities stemming from your decisions.
Infinite universes. So there's a version of me out there who's a rock star, a brain surgeon, and maybe even one who enjoys cleaning the bathroom.
Theoretically, yes. Now let's apply this to the ultimate decision point: life or death. According to the theory of quantum immortality, in any situation where you could potentially die, there will always be at least one universe where you survive.
So even if I were to, say, trip over this microphone cord right now and take a tumble in some alternate reality, I'd land gracefully, maybe even strike a triumphant pose.
Precisely. According to the theory, your consciousness would only continue in the timelines where you survive, essentially creating an experience of immortality as you jump between universes.
Okay, I think I get it. I'm gonna need to reboot my brain after this one. So how much of this is based on actual science versus like really convincing science fiction?
Well, the concept of a multiverse, the existence of multiple universes, isn't as far-fetched as it might sound. It's a legitimate concept explored in certain interpretations of quantum mechanics, the study of how particles behave at the subatomic level.
Right, like Schrodinger's cat. Both dead and alive at the same time until you open the box. It's all about possibilities, probabilities.
Exactly. Quantum mechanics is full of these seemingly paradoxical ideas, and the many worlds interpretation suggests that these paradoxes might be resolved by the existence of these branching timelines.
So it's not entirely out there, but the idea of human consciousness navigating these multiple universes, achieving immortality, that's a bit of a leap, to say the least.
A leap, for sure. And that's why it resides in A tier. While it has roots in theoretical physics, the notion that our consciousness could steer us through these alternate realities, experience a never-ending existence, is highly speculative.
It's definitely a concept that sparks more questions than answers, but it does make you wonder about the vastness of the cosmos, the possibility that our universe is just one of many in a grand tapestry of existence.
It's a thought-provoking concept, to be sure. And it leads us to a question that we'll explore as we venture further down the rabbit hole of immortality theories. What if consciousness isn't limited to our individual minds? What if it's something far grander, something woven into the fabric of the cosmos itself?
You know, it's funny how these theories often mirror our own experiences in a way.
Oh, absolutely.
Like instead of switching between different tabs on our computer, maybe our consciousness is flipping between realities. But let's be honest, some ideas are a bit more out there than others.
Definitely.
So buckle up, listeners.
That's where our next tier comes in. S tier and beyond. This is where we're leaving scientific plausibility behind, venturing into pure speculation.
Think of it as a cosmic playground for the imagination, where logic takes a back seat, but the what-ifs are as boundless as the universe itself.
I like that, a cosmic playground.
Right. Our first stop on this S-tier cosmic road trip, living through cosmic reincarnation.
Ah, yes.
Not your average Tuesday, right?
Not at all. Instead of individual souls being reborn, picture this. The universe itself going through cycles of death and rebirth. Imagine the universe as this vast, breathing entity. It expands, contracts, and then boom, a new Big Bang kicks off another cycle.
So the universe is hitting the refresh button on a cosmic scale. Out with the old, in with the new.
Exactly. But here's where cosmic reincarnation comes in. What if consciousness, or at least the essence of who we are, isn't bound by the death of one universe? What if it somehow gets carried over into the next cycle?
So instead of individual souls coming back in different forms, it's more like the universe itself remembers, holding on to echoes of what came before.
That's one way to think about it. Imagine it less like a precise recording and more like a melody. It's being hummed, then picked up by a new orchestra in a new concert hall. The instruments might be different, the arrangement slightly altered, but the essence of the tune, that remains.
That's a beautiful analogy, but it still makes you wonder, what does that even look like? Would we even recognize ourselves in this new iteration of the universe?
It's a question that sparks more philosophical pondering than concrete answers, that's for sure. And that's part of what makes these S-tier theories so captivating. They really highlight the limits of our understanding while inviting us to consider possibilities that are awe-inspiring and a little bit terrifying.
Awe-inspiring and terrifying. I think that's a great way to sum up our fascination with the unknown. Okay, on that note, let's shift gears from the cosmic to the microscopic. Our next S-tier contender is all about nanotechnology repairing cells indefinitely. Think of it as a very, very tiny approach to a very big concept.
Imagine a world where instead of fearing aging and disease, you have a microscopic team of repairmen constantly on the job inside your body. We're talking nanobots, robots so small you could fit billions of them on the head of a pin.
I'm picturing those tiny robots from Big Hero 6 Foot, but instead of transforming into weapons, they're busy patching up our cells.
It's a pretty accurate visual. These nanobots would be programmed with an incredibly detailed understanding of our biology. Their job is to constantly patrol our cells, repairing damage, cleaning up toxins, basically keeping everything running smoothly.
So it's like having a built-in 24/7 repair crew for your body. Sign me up. But seriously, how realistic is this scenario?
Well, we're not quite at the point of injecting ourselves with microscopic mechanics, but nanotechnology is a rapidly advancing field. We're already using nanoparticles for targeted drug delivery, like delivering chemotherapy directly to cancer cells, for instance.
Right, I've read about those. It's amazing how precise they can be. But building nanobots that can repair our bodies at the molecular level, that feels like a whole other level.
It definitely requires a level of technological advancement we haven't quite achieved yet. But who knows, maybe in the future, instead of annual checkups, we'll have scheduled maintenance for our internal nanobot team.
Yeah, that's a future I could get behind. Though I do wonder about those unexpected software glitches. But okay, let's shift gears again. Our next theory takes us away from the realm of physical intervention into something more intangible. We're venturing into S+ tier territory, the concept of the immortality of the soul.
Okay.
And this is where our exploration enters the realm of spirituality, philosophy, belief systems. It's about grappling with the idea that perhaps our consciousness, our essence, isn't bound by the same rules as our physical bodies.
Right. Many cultures and religions have this idea of a soul or spirit that continues on after death.
Right. But we're talking about it in the context of immortality. What does that look like from this perspective?
Well, imagine if, instead of ceasing to exist, our consciousness simply transcends the physical limitations of the body. What form it takes, what that afterlife might look like, that's where interpretations differ. Some envision heavens and hells, others reincarnation, some emerging with a universal consciousness.
It's a lot to wrap your head around, especially when we're so used to thinking about things in a scientific, evidence-based way.
Absolutely. But for many people, the belief in an immortal soul isn't about scientific proof. It's about faith, hope. It's about finding meaning in the face of our own mortality.
It's a good reminder that there are aspects of the human experience that science may not be able to fully explain.
Precisely.
And whether or not you subscribe to a particular belief system, the concept of an immortal soul prompts us to consider the nature of consciousness, the meaning of life, what might lie beyond our earthly existence.
The big questions.
Big questions, for sure. And speaking of big questions, our next S+Tier theory takes the concept of interconnectedness to a whole new level. We're talking about transcendence through cosmic consciousness.
Okay.
So imagine, if you will, that consciousness isn't just something we humans possess, but like a fundamental property of the universe itself.
So instead of just having our individual minds, we're all connected to something much larger, a universal network of consciousness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just as there's a cosmic web connecting stars and galaxies, this theory proposes a similar web of consciousness linking all living things.
It's like we're all plugged into some kind of cosmic internet, sharing thoughts, emotions, maybe even the occasional cat video
Right.
across the vastness of space and time.
Maybe not cat videos,
Uh-huh.
but I like where you're going with this.
Right.
So the theory is suggesting that when we die, our individual consciousness doesn't just vanish. Instead, it merges with this universal consciousness, becoming part of something infinitely larger than ourselves.
It challenges our perception of individuality, suggesting that we're all interconnected, part of something grander than we can fully grasp.
It's a humbling and awe-inspiring concept. But okay, we've explored some truly mind-bending ideas so far, and as much as I'm enjoying this cosmic consciousness journey, we've got to move on, because believe it or not, things are about to get even more speculative.
Oh no, yes.
Fasten your seatbelts, listeners, because we're about to enter the broken tier, where logic goes to die, but the what-ifs never get old.
The broken tier.
Broken tier, where we explore those ideas so out there, so improbable, they make even the wildest S-tier theories look, well, tame.
It's like the what-if zone, where the laws of physics take a vacation and we're free to explore the most gloriously implausible scenarios imaginable.
Exactly, and our first stop in this land of anything goes is a classic resurrection via time travel. Because who needs cryonics when you can just zip back in time and pluck people right from the jaws of death?
Imagine, untimely demises are easily remedied with a quick trip in a time machine. Forgot to pay a parking ticket? No problem. Pop back a few weeks, hand your past self a 20, and you're golden.
Right. Sounds convenient, though I imagine the traffic in the space-time continuum would be a nightmare. But in all seriousness, time travel always seems to come with, like, a hefty side of paradoxes, doesn't it?
Paradoxes galore. It's the classic grandfather paradox, right? Imagine you go back in time, save your grandfather from a terrible accident. But if he never died, would your parents even have met? Would you still exist? It gets messy fast.
My head hurts just trying to follow that timeline.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the sheer impracticality of it all. Even if you did manage to invent a time machine, finding the exact moment, the exact location.
It'd be like trying to find a single grain of sand on a beach that stretches for light years.
Exactly.
And even if you could pinpoint the right moment, removing someone from the past without causing ripples that disrupt, like, the entire fabric of reality.
Yeah.
The unintended consequences could be, well, catastrophic, to say the least.
It's the butterfly effect on a cosmic scale.
Yeah.
Step on the wrong butterfly in the past, and suddenly the future is ruled by giant moths. Or something equally bizarre.
All right.
Okay, so maybe time travel isn't the most reliable path to immortality. Speaking of exploring the vastness of what if, let's jump to another broken tier theory that's a bit less about, rewriting the past and more about navigating the infinite possibilities of the present. Immortality through alternate realities.
Ah, yes. The multiverse. The idea that our universe is just one of countless others existing simultaneously. And in some of these realities, maybe you and I are having the same conversation, but with slightly different outcomes, different choices made along the way.
I like the version where we're both sipping on, like, intergalactic smoothies while discussing this. But you're saying that in some of these alternate realities, there might be versions of us living out every possible permutation of our lives, including ones where we never die.
Exactly. Imagine a reality where you made all the right choices, won the cosmic lottery, maybe even have a pet unicorn.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Though I do wonder about the logistics of interdimensional pet travel. But seriously, even if these alternate realities do exist, how do we access them? Is there like a cosmic portal hidden in the back of a vintage record store or something?
If only it were that simple. Truth is, we have no way of knowing if travel between universes is even possible. And even if we could somehow breach those barriers between realities, there's no guarantee we'd end up somewhere we'd want to live forever, is there?
Right, it's like playing cosmic roulette. You spin the wheel, and you might end up in a utopia, or you might end up in a dystopian reality where socks are outlawed. And the only music allowed is elevator music.
A risk some might be willing to take, perhaps. But until we have a better understanding of the multiverse, or at least a really good travel agent who specializes in interdimensional travel, this one stays firmly in the broken tier.
All right, so maybe not the most practical path to immortality, but it certainly, it fuels the imagination. But now we've arrived at the peak, the ultimate frontier of far-fetched immortality theories. Brace yourselves, listeners, because we're entering the beyond broken tier, where the ideas are so wild, so fantastically improbable, they make time travel look like a walk in the park. And our first stop in this realm of the utterly inconceivable is achieving immortality by becoming a god.
Why not? Right. When you've exhausted all other options, why not just become the ultimate immortal being?
Right. Who needs scientific breakthroughs where you can just have omnipotence? But in all seriousness, this idea of humans ascending to godhood, it pops up in mythologies, stories, across cultures. What is it about this idea that we find so endlessly captivating?
I think it speaks to our deepest desires, That longing for power, for control over our own destinies, perhaps even over the very fabric of reality. It's the ultimate fantasy, transcending our limitations and becoming something more, something eternal.
It's the ultimate power fantasy, for sure. But it also begs the question, what does it even mean to be a god? Would we spend our infinite existence, creating worlds, answering prayers, or maybe just catching up on all those TV shows we never had time for?
Right.
The possibilities are endless.
As they say. Or perhaps, as the idea of a divine immortality suggests, we'd transcend such mundane concerns entirely, existing on a plane of being so far beyond our current comprehension that it defies description.
A plane of being where maybe those algae crackers from that alternate reality wouldn't seem so bad after all.
There you go.
Okay, maybe that's just me. But either way, it's a concept that sparks some pretty wild speculation. But before we wrap up our epic journey through the world of immortality theories, we have one final mind-bending theory to explore. Achieving immortality through, cosmic manipulation of time and space.
Okay, now we're talking about a level of mastery over the universe that goes beyond simply bending the rules. This is about rewriting the fabric of reality itself.
Right. It's the ultimate act of cosmic defiance. We're not just asking for an extra slice of the existential pie, we're taking over the entire bakery. But this is about as beyond broken tier as it gets.
It requires a level of knowledge, a level of control over the fundamental forces of the universe that's, it's almost comical.
But that's the beauty of these beyond broken tier theories, isn't it? They allow us to push our imaginations to the absolute limit, to confront the boundaries of what we believe is possible, and then just leapfrog right over them.
Exactly. Because even in their absurdity, even in their utter implausibility, these ideas force us to ask those big questions, challenge our assumptions, embrace the wonder of the unknown.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the endlessly fascinating, often perplexing, and always thought-provoking world of immortality theories. We've journeyed from the cutting edge of science to the outer limits of speculation, and hopefully sparked your curiosity about the big questions surrounding life, death, and the universe we find ourselves in.
Because even if that dream of immortality remains elusive, the very act of exploring it, of grappling with those possibilities, can enrich our understanding of what it means to be human.
Beautifully put. So until next time, keep asking those big questions, keep exploring those seemingly impossible ideas, and remember, even if we can't cheat death, we can certainly live lives so full, so meaningful, so authentically us, that they transcend the limitations of time itself.